everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Mafia podcast. Today we are doing an NBA edition. Last week we talked a little bit about the Eastern and Western conferences and our projections for that. This week we're going to be doing some awards: MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Most Improved, Sixth Man Rookie of the Year. In our next episode, we're going to talk about our All NBA team. So my name is Jordan Jaika, aka Dr. Fantasy. I'm here with Zach, aka the Fantasy Caveman, and we are going to just step right into it. Before we do, make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy Mafia YouTube channel. Check out our website at thefantasymafia.com and make sure you like us on Facebook. So let's hop right into it. We'll start it off with MVP. Caveman, who do you have as the NBA MVP?
Well, this one's kind of obvious for a couple of reasons. As you know, I'm a Bucks fan, so it's hard for my bias not to show out here. But it's Giannis. What more can you say? I'm gonna sound like such a fanboy,
Yeah.
and but it's hard not to being a Bucks fan. But he averaged 30 points, 40 rebounds, 6 assists, and under 31 per game. I mean, that system in Milwaukee with Budenholzer at the helm. He's done a great job at managing his workloads.
Mm-hmm.
With the term load management, but he's doing load management without giving guys nights off.
Mm-hmm.
He's keeping their minutes low, and he's rotating in a bunch of guys. And they had the best record in the league before the lockdown, and the Bucks led in rating too. So
Yep.
That's another thing to look at. It's just that I could. A lot of people that are not seeing Giannis are going to say LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and while LeBron, I'll admit I don't like LeBron. Has nothing to do with what his personal life, or he's a great guy, but as a best, don't like him. Never liked him, but he's not having the season that Giannis is having. That's just stating facts. And I think before I kick it over to you to see what you think, you talk about James has Anthony Davis, who's another top 5 player in the league on it. Now I like Chris Middleton, especially Bucks fan, but he is nowhere near the co-star that Anthony Davis. So I think that speaks a lot to Giannis' level of play this year, leading them to the best record.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have Giannis as well. I think it's hard to argue against him. I knew that you were going to be picking Giannis going into this, so I was doing everything that I could to come up with an argument against him. And, I just really can't. You already mentioned all of his statistics. He's third in the league in points, third in rebounds, 23rd in assists, which is really impressive for a big guy. In player efficiency rating, he's number 1. Not only overall player efficiency, but his, I love my defense. He had the best defensive rating in the entire NBA. The Bucks play a very nice team defensive game. There's nothing. He has no weaknesses in terms of his MVP case. The Bucks have the best record in the NBA. They're the front runners to win the NBA championship. I just can't come up with one reason that he shouldn't win it. A lot of people are saying LeBron. LeBron actually wouldn't be my second choice. My second choice would actually be Luka. I think the Mavericks have been really surprising this year. The Western Conference is super competitive, and the fact they had 40 wins before the lockdown or shutdown, that's really a testament to how well Luka played. And when you look at his numbers, he averaged a little under 29 points a game, 9.3 rebounds, 8.3 assists. He was 4th in player efficiency rating. So for me, I actually would make it. I would probably have Luka as my second guy. LeBron's had a good season. I probably have him in third place. His numbers, he's always a threat to average close to a triple-double, which he is again at age 155 season, however old he is now. But, he's playing really well. You already mentioned Anthony Davis is, that's the best second man in the entire league. He's a top 5, top 10 player in the entire league. So, I have no argument against Giannis, and I like Luka. I think Luka will definitely have his opportunity to win an MVP in the future. I think he's only 21 still, so Luka will probably win multiple MVPs in his career. So we'll transition into the next award, which is Defensive Player of the Year. Who do you got there?
Defensive player. Again, I'm gonna go Giannis. He's having that kind of season. He's having that kind of special season. Looking at a couple things here, the Bucks put up a 101.6 net rating here, which hasn't been done since the 2015-2016 season. That's hella impressive if you ask me. And he was near the top of the NBA in points allowed per possession, which is one of those, when you talk about defensive player here, you talk about awards like this. To me, you gotta look a lot at kind of some advanced metrics to really determine somebody's impact, especially on the defensive end of the floor. And points allowed per possession is one of those. He was near the top. I don't know the exact positioning of it, but he was near the top at 0.782 points allowed per possession, which is incredible to me. I don't know who the leader is, right? I didn't look that up, but yeah, so just a couple of reasons. I mean, there's other argument. I could see an argument being made for Anthony Davis as Defensive Player of the Year. More Defensive Player of the Year is definitely more open than MVP, I would say, easily. But I'm going Giannis there. He just had that kind of a season.
Yeah, and I mean, once again, I agree. I have Giannis as well, and it's another case. I wanted to make a case against him. Anthony Davis, you can argue, also has a pretty strong case, but yeah, I mean, Giannis is the leader in almost every defensive metric. The Bucks are I won't say hands down best defensive team. They're definitely in the top 3, I would say. So they're right in the conversation. So he's leading the best defense as the best defender. I mean, it's just another situation. I really can't argue against him. So, I mean, Anthony Davis is also up there in terms of defensive efficiency and points per possession allowed and all those fun metrics. But, I mean, it's still Giannis is above him in all of it. So I think I'd be surprised if Giannis didn't bring home an MVP and Defensive Player of the Year this year.
Yeah, I would. Me personally, I wouldn't be too upset if snubbed Giannis for Defensive Player of the Year and gave it to Anthony Davis. I think obviously Anthony Davis is the only other guy that had any kind of chance at taking home Defensive Player of the Year. So I wouldn't be too upset if snubbed Giannis the Defensive Player of the Year, but he's obviously the quick hitter.
Yep, I'd agree. So next is probably another unexciting one, Rookie of the Year. I'll start this one off. I have Ja Morant, which I was hoping that you would have Zion just so we could talk about that because that's your boy, but we don't. So Ja Morant. I mean, the biggest thing with Ja, too, is I don't think anybody would have ever predicted the Grizzlies to be in playoff contention. That's the most impressive part of this. I mean, they're the 8th seed right now. Not that they're locked in to make the playoffs. They're going to have to earn it with the last 8 games and probably a play-in game we're going to see. So they still have a long way to go. But to even be in playoff contention is really impressive. I mean, everybody thought this was a team that was in rebuilding mode. I mean, they just took Ja second overall. So, I mean, a year ago, they were one of the worst teams in the NBA. And they've turned that around way quicker than anyone would have imagined. So, I mean, he averages 17.6 points per game, 6.9 assists, which is 13th in the league. The biggest thing with Zion, I think Zion would have had a great case, obviously, if he played the entire season. When you look at some of Zion's averaging 24 points a game, his player efficiency rating was higher, but that's a little you can't really read into that because he only played 19 games. But if Zion played a full season, we would have a really fun discussion here right now. But even if Zion plays the last 8 games when we come back here, that's only 27 games he's going to end up playing. And I can't give the award to a guy that's only playing 27 games.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. I'm 100% with you on this. And as you know from previous stuff that we did, I love Zion Williamson. I love the Pelicans in general. They're gonna be a force. And possibly this year with how it shakes out, who knows? But definitely next year. This year, if they were doing that, it'd be kind of like a bonus. But yeah, with Zion, it's simply a matter of the games. He's only, like say, only played 19, and I'm sure for me personally, even you, and it would be hard. See, the challenging thing with me is if Zion played this entire, if he would have played more games or played this season, I don't think he keeps up this pace for an entire season.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how exactly his numbers would have looked had he, had played more games, which is interesting. But I definitely think there would have been a fun debate had Zion. I can't even, obviously the only other person that's even being mentioned is Zion. I don't even know. Do we even know who would be third?
I mean, based off of the numbers, and this is only because right before the shutdown, he might have had an interesting case if he kept up his streak. But Kobe White from the Bulls, he went on a huge hot streak. He was averaging 26 points. I think I saw earlier today for the previous 8 games before the shutdown. So if Kobe White kept up that, he might have been an interesting name, but I don't think that he has a good enough case above Ja.
Yeah, another name that could have sneaky would be Kendrick Nunn from Miami. He probably wouldn't have had a chance just because his numbers aren't as flashy. Kind of these awards are kind of a lot of numbers and the stats you put up, not so much. Not necessarily your impact on the team or whatever. I think Nunn would be my third choice if I had to, but yeah, it's clear it's far and away that's probably the easiest award to decide.
Yep. So next we have the 6th man of the year. So who do you have for that?
6th man of the year, I have Dennis Schroeder. I'm not 100% of pronunciation. I'm sorry. Of OKC. You look at similar to Memphis. You look at OK this year, and who expected OK with they were supposed to be in rebuilding mode with Paul kind of helping leading them there. And you look at OK right now, and they said it's the number 5 seed in the Western Conference, led by Chris Paul, Shai, and Dennis Schroeder off the bench. He's averaging 19 points per game off the bench. And what's impressive is that you look at when OKC closes games, Schroeder's in there typically with Shai and Paul. They use like a 3-guard lineup to kind of close games out. I think that's the thing when I look at, especially when you talk about 6 man, is obviously they come off the bench, but is a guy closing games for the team, and that's something that Lou Williams, who is always in the conversation, has won it 95 times over his career. Is that Lou Williams? Yes, he calls off the bench, but he plays a lot of minutes and he really closes games. And that's the biggest thing with me for 6 man. And I think you could make a case for Montrezl Harrell or Lou Williams, and this one a little closer than the previous ones that we discussed in my end. But for me, I'm taking a guy in Dennis Schroeder who mainly in part because of what I mentioned about his team success.
Yeah, and I mean, I have Dennis Schroeder as well. You already mentioned the Thunder, one of the most surprising teams in the West. Averaging 19 points off of the best is extremely impressive. They had Chris Paul and Shai starting, as you already mentioned. I would agree that Lou Williams and Montrezl Harrell are the other major contenders to win the award. But between the surprise of the Thunder, I'm surprised we agreed on this one, but between the surprise of the Thunder and Schroeder's numbers off the bench, I really can't argue with him. So I think he'll win the award as well. So let's finish it up. Who do you have for most improved?
Okay. This one was a bit tougher than I would say than the other awards, but I went with Bam out of the Miami Heat. I mean, you look at Bam's numbers this year, and it's just impressive what Bam's been able to do this year. I mean, no one expected this at all out of it. He increased his scoring by over 7 points per game. You put in the fact he led that Miami. He's a driving defensive force and rim protector for the Miami Heat. And I think especially what people don't realize about Bam is that he was one of the Heat's top playmakers. Like he can dish out the ball. He averaged about 5 assists per game this year, which is excellent for a big man like him who you wouldn't really think of to be a passer. So yeah, Bam's I mean, you could there's his brother guys such as Brandon Ingram or whoever, but for me it's Bam simply because this wasn't anywhere near what people were expecting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think Bam's a really good selection. I mean, he was a surprise all-star. 16 points, 10.5 rebounds. You already mentioned the assists, which is really impressive. He's, I think, top 15 in defensive rating, so he's a really great defender as well. And I mean, I think he's going to have a nice long NBA career. He's a great ball handler too, as a big guy. So he's fun to watch, and he's only going to keep getting better. And I picked one of the guys that you mentioned already, Brandon Ingram. And I would definitely say that Brandon Ingram doesn't have the surprise factor that Bam has. But I remember 2 or 3 years ago, people thought Brandon Ingram was going to be, I won't necessarily say a bust, but he was a second overall pick, and a lot of people didn't see him living up to that after his rookie season. So now that he came over to the Pelicans, he's in a nice situation. Him and Zion should make a great tandem for years to come. Ingram's still only 22. He's been in the league 4 years, but he's still only 22 years old. I mean, he made a huge jump. I mean, he averaged 24 points this year, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and he really was the primary offensive force there for the Pelicans. Even when Zion came back, I know a lot of people were concerned that Ingram's numbers were going to dip, but I mean, Ingram just kept getting better and better and stronger. So I definitely don't think he had the surprise factor of Bam, but he great jump for him. He was an all-star as well in the crowded Western Conference. So I like Ingram, and I'm looking forward to seeing what him and Zion can do.
Totally, and as we've already mentioned in this show and what I've mentioned before, he's part of that Pelicans cast that I'm just extremely high on forward. Another name that is a dark horse that I kind of considered a little bit, but it wasn't anywhere close, would be Markelle Fultz. How he hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
His last season, and he's not. He's definitely. I just don't think he has like the name recognition. Not saying people don't recognize his name, but if you're like Bam, Brandon Ingram, those are more household names, I would say. So I think that's part of the reason why Marco Fultz is going to get the recognition. But you look at Fultz and the Magic are in the playoffs as they say.
Yep.
for the Eastern Conference, and I Fultz is definitely a key in that. That and my boy Michael Carter Williams over there.
Oh gosh, I would just bring up that name.
Had to throw that name in there just because. But yeah, he would be my personal second. There's a lot of other names that you could throw in there. But for me, if I had the second place from you, go to Markel Fultz.
Yeah, I mean, I think Markel Fultz could have been a contender. The problem with Fultz, in my opinion, was that he did start off the season really slowly. He kind of started to catch fire and improve as the season went along. And if we had a full season, I mean, he could have kept going up and improving more and more. So I think he wasn't, he might be a great candidate actually in the future still. So, I mean, he's only averaging 12 points a game this year. I mean, if he makes bigger strides heading into next season, yeah, I mean, we might be talking about him as a contender next season.
Yeah, totally. He's still at a point where he can drastically improve, and I'm not sure offhand what his contract looks like, or if he'd be with the Magic next season. But I think he stays, if he's with Orlando next season, and it's probably going to end up being the starting point guard next season for him if they keep him.
Yeah, and I mean, he's still only 22 as well, so.
Yeah, I just quickly looked up. It does look like he's under contract next season he's under contract for $12 million next season. He better perform.
He doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, I know, right? But I just think, next season, he's only 21, so there's still plenty of room for him to grow, and especially next season, I could see him continuing where he's left off this season next season, especially with Orlando. Although my guess is Orlando's going to take a point guard in the next draft. I mean, I love my boy Carter Williams, but I don't have any faith in him long-term viable backup point guard for them. So.
Yeah. We've talked about that a few times. I agree that the Magic will probably. I mean, they need a lot of talent. They could use some wings. They could use a guard. They could use really anything. So it's probably the best player on the board.
The only thing they probably don't need is a center.
Yeah, with Vukovic.
Is a beast.
And Aaron Gordon's a solid four.
That's the only position they don't need is a center. They need everything.
Yep. They need some help. So that's all the awards that we have today. So our next episode, we're going to talk about our all NBA teams. So we thank you guys for watching. It's been another episode, NBA edition of the Fantasy Mafia podcast. If you don't already, make sure you subscribe to the Fantasy Mafia YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and make sure you check out our website at thefantasymafia.com. So once again, we appreciate it, and we'll see you guys next time.